So Abraham Lincoln was dealing with a situation that no president had ever dealt with before, and there was no blueprint for keeping states satisfied and wanting to be part of the United States. So the southern states had believed they seceded from the Union. They believed that they had successfully dissolved their bonds to the federal government. Abraham Lincoln, on the other hand, going into the Civil War, believed that secession was an illegal act and that the United States was a nation, not a collection of states. Um, he thought that America was one country, not just a bunch of people on a team together. Uh, People in the South truly believed that the states had freely joined the Union and could freely leave. They thought that since their state had signed the Constitution, they could freely take it back and not be part of the Constitution. So there's two very different trains of thought between Lincoln and the Southern states. So in his first inaugural address, Abraham Lincoln addressed those who were feeling down. He said, "In your hands, my dissatisfied fellow countrymen, and not in mine, is the momentous issue of civil war." He didn't disparage them. He didn't call them names. He just acknowledged that they were feeling bad and said that the Civil War, if it happens, is going to be on them. Now, at the beginning of the war, Abraham Lincoln's first goal as president was to keep the Union together, preserve the Union, if you will. But his goal is going to change later as more and more events come to light and kind of get him to change his views. His later goal is to end slavery and expand citizenship, because America is not going to heal if slavery still existed. Now, in September of 1863, after Abraham Lincoln had witnessed the Battle of Antietam, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Some backdrop here. The Emancipation Proclamation was developed after enslaved African Americans were given asylum at Fort Monroe, were declared contraband of war. As the Union Army had pressed down to the South, many enslaved people will escape up north, and a lot of them end up at Fort Monroe. So Abraham Lincoln was pretty much witnessing a refugee crisis. Now, remember from the battles portion of the videos, Abraham Lincoln had been looking for victory. At the heart of it, the Emancipation Proclamation was a war measure, not Lincoln trying to be nice. He figured that if the enslaved population of the southern states were gone, then the South would have no economy to go with. I mean, enslaved people were most of their workforce. So Abraham Lincoln chose his words very carefully. He freed those slaves in rebelling states, the seceded southern states. If he freed enslaved people everywhere, then states in the north and in the border states might have turned tail and joined the Confederacy. He also made the destruction of slavery a Northern war aim with the Emancipation Proclamation. Also, gotta be thinking, maybe European powers want the southern states to win. After all, southern states were producing 80% of the world's cotton at the time. So France, England, other European countries are like, ooh, maybe the South should win. So with the Emancipation Proclamation, Abraham Lincoln will also discourage any interference from any European governments. And probably the biggest step is he's going to allow for the enlistment of African American soldiers in the Union Army. Now, last but not least, the Gettysburg Address is the most famous speech ever written, and it was given after the Battle of Gettysburg on November 19th, 1863. This is where Lincoln redefines what the war is about. He says, "The Civil War was a struggle to preserve a nation that was dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal, and that was ruled by a government of the people, for the people, by the people." This is where he redefines that the war is going to be about ending slavery and making sure the government works for everybody, not just the privileged few that it was working for before.